Slate. So let's recap my lineup here really quick. First, let's go over the one lineup that I avoided an injury or ejection all weekend. Every other slate I played either had an injury or an ejection. Last night, the only slate that I avoided that was the Showdown slate. Almost took it down, finished in 4th place. So that was nice to basically break even and cover the losses for the injuries and for the jaw ejection. And then tonight, I get 2 players injured and still cash. Naz Reid injured, Austin Reeves injured. Still cash in tournaments with 2 injuries. Just want one slate. I just want one slate. But all right, let's talk about a couple things here. I don't really like patting myself on the back, but I do want to mention this. The Chris Boucher, Hernan Gomez thing, I covered this a lot in the stream. Like if you're on Patreon and in the live stream today, I probably talked about this for like 15 minutes. How I thought the field was way, way overconfident in Hernan Gomez. And I was looking at the ownership, and I was like, why is everyone so confident in Hernan Gomez and no one's playing Chris Boucher? When here's my thought process, right? And this is where you can be a successful GBP player, is you identify spots where the field is overconfident, right? I thought the field was overconfident in Hernan Gomez because the 41 minutes he played last game, but previous to that, he was like out of the rotation. My whole breakdown of it was, I knew Van Fleet was going to play huge minutes. I knew Siakam was going to play huge minutes. I knew Scotty Barnes was going to play huge minutes. I was like, literally, don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the rotation. I think they're going to go with the hot hand. That's kind of what they've done this year. So if everyone's just going to assume it's going to be Hernan Gomez, I'm going to go to Boucher, right? I told everyone, I was like, Boucher is a good point per minute guy. If he finds his way in more minutes like he did tonight, he could break the slate. So leverage the field. 50% of people went to Hernan Gomez. I went to a 1% Boucher. Hernan Gomez was a massive bust. Boucher smash. Now, that was like best case scenario, right? Hernan Gomez could have very easily had a good game, but the whole point I'm trying to make is the field is way too overconfident in that spot. I identified that. So yeah, again, if you're in the Patreon live stream, you would not hear me shut up about Boucher versus Hernan Gomez and how I thought Boucher was a great pivot off of Hernan Gomez. But the rest of my lineup: Van Fleet, random blowout. Minnesota, so this was a little bit tricky. I was hoping that D'Angelo Russell was going to be out. He ended up playing. I was like messing with swaps. I couldn't really get to anything I liked. There wasn't a lot of other spend-ups left. Like I already had LeBron and Thomas Bryant. I knew we were going to play. I knew I was going to play. So I ended up just sticking with it. I pivoted off the McDaniels. I had McDaniels in my small forward spot. I pivoted off him to Reeves. Obviously, that cost me a bit because McDaniels, I think, finished with 38. But yeah, guys, so that is the recap of everything. Again, injuries or ejection, every single slate. So maybe, just maybe, we can avoid it on this 9-game slate. So we'll start off with Utah and Cleveland. Colin Sexton's out. Kelly Olynyk is questionable. If Kelly Olynyk misses, I would assume they start Walker Kessler, especially against a big front court. So he would probably be the guy that stands out the most to me. Good point per minute. My only concern would be potential foul trouble. So if Olynyk's out, I would guess Kessler starts again. I think it'd be a pretty good value play. As far as the rest of the Jazz go, I mean, you got a revenge game narrative for Lauri Markkanen. He's fine for GBPs. Clarkson, we know the ceiling's there. Beasley feels priced about right. Vanderbilt still does not playing a ton of minutes, right? That's the issue. Mike Conley's been pretty bad since coming back, but he's relatively cheap. Yeah, not a lot of standout things other than I think, again, Kessler looks really good if Olynyk is out. If Olynyk's in, there's not a ton that I really like in Utah. Moving on to the Cleveland side. So Cleveland, nothing really important here other than Lamar Stevens and Dean Wade out. So at the top, I think Donovan Mitchell, probably my favorite of the spend-up Cavs, just because I think he has, the highest ceiling. It is a pretty good matchup as well against Utah. So I do have some interest in Mitchell. Garland, Mobley, and Allen are kind of just there. If you want to get to any of those guys, that's totally fine. But there's no standouts there. Levert at 4.6K should play, 25, 30 minutes on the bench. He played 38 minutes last game and went for 9 fancy points, which is wild. But yeah, he's more of a secondary value. And Kevin Love is still really cheap, but the minutes are just not there. He's going to break the slate soon, though, if his price stays below 4K. Because if you get the 25-minute Kevin Love game at this price, right, you can go for like 35 fancy points. So he's still definitely viable for GPPs. Chetty Osman's 3-1. The minutes are just still not great, even with Lamar Stevens and Dean Wade out. All right, Toronto and Philadelphia. So with Toronto, again, here we go, right? This is what we know of Toronto. Siakam, Van Fleet, and Scotty Barnes are going to play a ton. Against Philadelphia, not necessarily the best matchup, but all three have a ceiling. I think the safest probably would be Van Fleet of this group, just because, Siakam could be matched up at times with Embiid. I would guess they start probably Koloko, though. So maybe he won't be matched up with him a ton, but still, it always worries me. Center's going up against Embiid. Gary Trent Jr. will keep an eye if he plays. If he plays, he's going to downgrade the value. If he misses, so Hernan Gomez has started the previous 2 games. Again, he played 41 minutes 2 games ago, only 23 minutes last game. So if he starts again, he's a fair value play. They started Koloko as well. I've been playing about 20 minutes. He's not been great, though. The guy that I do like for GPPs, once again, would be Boucher. Now, probably not going to get him at 1% ownership after he went for 29 fantasy points in 25 minutes, but still a guy that intrigues me. We'll see if the ownership comes in on those guys. Malachi Flynn saw some rotation minutes. Played, is that right? He played 37 minutes? Doesn't seem right. Well, 3.1K. If there is no Gary Trent Jr., you can consider Malachi Flynn. Still, though, not super confident those minutes will be there again. I'm moving on to Philadelphia, so still no Maxey. Embiid, Harden, they're both solid plays at the top. I think I give the edge to Embiid, but if I had to pick, between the two straight up, but Harden might be a little bit easier to get to since he's got shooting guard eligibility. So like the 2 main guys there for Philly. The rest are kind of secondary plays with Harris and DeAnthony Melton. Shake Milton off the bench is relatively cheap, but probably not going to go there in this one. Orlando and Atlanta. So Orlando, still more of a tournament team for me. I like the ceiling on Banchero. I like the ceiling on Franz Wagner. Mo Wagner has had his big games. Bull has as well, but his minutes are kind of up and down. Anthony and Fultz have been very up and down. So it's like no one I really trust on this team. So I would say all more tournament plays, but I do like the matchup. Again, point per dollar, Markelle Fultz might be my favorite just because he is a guy that does have this type of ceiling. But again, he's been very, very up and down. So basically my breakdown is I have interest in all like the main Magic, but I think they're all more tournament plays. Mo Bamba, playable off the bench as well at 4.4. Moving on to Atlanta. So the big news here is Murray and Collins both questionable. If they are both in, there's really nothing that stands out for Atlanta. If they're both out, then, Trae Young's going to look pretty good at the top. He's going to run the show offensively. Bogdanovich would start, most likely will play over 30 minutes. He would be a decent play in the mid-range. We know Capella is still out. So either way, I guess Okongwu is still a solid play. Dealt with some foul trouble last game, but he's still a solid play either way. And then, I don't really know if I can get to anyone else. Again, Kaminsky played well as the backup 5, but the game did blow out. If you wanted to take a dart throw on him in GPPs, you can. I think you probably get like a 30-18 split or something like that minutes-wise. Portland and Oklahoma City. So Grant and Hart both probable. Nurkic and Hart both probable. Grant is questionable. Last game, Grant missed. They started Justice Winslow. Played him 28 minutes. So if there's no Jeremy Grant, I think Winslow's a pretty good value at 3.6. Dame, like the ceiling at 10.7. Nurkic feels priced about right. His minutes have just kind of been disappointing of late. Not a ton else that stands out for me in Portland. This team, man. Don't want to do it. Don't want to deal with this tomorrow. All right, this is the last thing I want to deal with. But unfortunately, we have to because Shea and Giddey are out as well as Jerry. So, I don't want Thunder, man. All right, I'll do my best to break it down, but really, they're going to play everything. So last game, they had 11 available players. They played every single one. I think that happens again. No really lock for anyone, big minutes. So, like, starters, you feel a little bit better about, but still, they can get screwed minutes-wise. We've seen that all year for the Thunder. So, all right, Lou Dort, 5'5", probably the guy I feel the best about minutes-wise. Like, I would think you see around 30 minutes from Lou Dort in competitive game. He does more offensively, obviously, with Giddey and SGA out. So I think he looks like a solid play there in the mid-range. Jalen Williams, the guard, makes for an intriguing play, I think. He was relatively popular last night, was awful, 0 of 8 shooting, but you have to have short-term memory in DFS. He still played 30 minutes. He's still a guy that, relatively high usage with those two guys out the court. So I do have interest in Jalen Williams. Again, an interesting bounce back candidate. Pokusevski started, still only played 22 minutes, did deal with some foul trouble, did go to the locker room as well. So he's a good point per minute guy, but still, he has gotten benched many times this year. Kenrich Williams came back off the bench and played 32 minutes, but he could very easily just play like 10 minutes off the bench. Isaiah Joe started, dealt with a bit of foul trouble, played 26 minutes. He's definitely solid value, assuming he starts again. Trey Mann, I thought he would start, but he came out the bench, only played 18 minutes, was decent in that time. Aaron Wiggins had a solid game off the bench. Eugene Amorie started, but only played 16 minutes. The other Jalen Williams got some rotation minutes. Like Muscala got some rotation minutes. It's just, it's not going to be fun. But unfortunately, we're probably going to have to play some Thunder tomorrow. All right, moving on to the Bucks. So Middleton is out. I think Joe Ingles is getting close or set to make his debut. Okay. I don't think he's going to play big minutes, but definitely, hurts the value here for Milwaukee. I'm mainly just interested in the top end guys. Giannis, Drew, Portis, decent matchup. I don't think there's any standouts. Like, I feel like they're all priced about right. But if you wanted to go to any of those three against the Pelicans, that's totally fine. It's just like, other than that, maybe a dart throw on Grayson Allen and hope he hits the shots, but not much else that I like. On the Pelican side, so no Ingram still. Larry Nance, questionable too. That's pretty significant. If Larry Nance is out, I do think you get a minutes bump for JV, and then you probably see Hernan Gomez in the rotation at the flat min price backing him up. Zion, CJ, they should run the offense. Zion kind of had a quiet game last game, but still put up 46 fantasy points. CJ McCollum had a decent game. He's been playing better of late, 40-plus fantasy points now in 3 of the last 4 games. Those are the two guys that are going to run the show. Jonas Valanciunas did play 26 minutes now, back-to-back games. He's been relatively disappointing in those minutes. So if you continue to give JV 26 minutes, he is not a 5.1K player, right? So I like JV here, and I do think if Nance is out, I feel a little bit better about his minutes. The rest, like these wings are all look pretty similar with like Murphy and Herb Jones starting. You can take shots in Marshall or Daniels off the bench, but there's no priorities. Dallas and Minnesota. So Tim Hardaway Jr. questionable, Luka Doncic questionable, Maxi Kleber, Josh Green out, Dwight Powell status up in there as well. So kind of hard to talk about. Last game with everyone out, we had the Kemba, vintage Kemba game. He went off. But yeah, if Luka and Hardaway are both out, I would think you get a starting lineup of Dinwiddie, Bullock, Finney Smith, Christian Wood. I don't know who the fifth. I don't know if they'd want to start. I guess they could start Kemba and Dinwiddie together. Yeah, that'd be interesting. If Hardaway and Luka are out, what would the starting lineup be? But yeah, so if Luka is out, I think Wood is still playable at 7-9 against a bigger front court in Minnesota. Spencer Dinwiddie will look really good. He would run the offense. And then the rest of the value kind of depends on what happens with these questionable players. So a little bit hard to break down at the moment for Dallas. If Luka and Hardaway are both in, then Luka is definitely viable at the top. Wood feels a little pricey at 7-9, and the rest would probably be a bit overpriced. On the Minnesota side, so Gobert, questionable. He did not play tonight. And then Naz Reid left the game and did not return. So we could get some value here. I also talked about this. I brought it up because someone asked about Damian Jones as a, viable like dart throw in tournaments. And I said, all right, if you're going to go that route, if you're going to go like the dart throw in tournaments, go to Nathan Knight, where if something happens to Naz Reid, he could smash. And Nathan Knight got minutes, and he was really good in those minutes. 26 minutes, 23 fantasy points. So if there is no Gobert and Naz Reid, I would assume you get Nathan Knight and Luka Garza as the two centers, former Pistons. So both solid point per minute. Would like both. Would feel better about whoever starts, but those two would be really good values if Gobert and Naz Reid are both out. And then the other Timberwolves, relatively easy to talk about. D'Lo, Ant, they both had good games tonight. It's not as good of a spot here against Dallas. Ant won for 67. I got him at low ownership. D'Lo won for 44. So those two, I think, are still playable for sure. Slow-Mo and McDaniels both feel priced about right. Noel's fine off the bench. So, yeah, I don't think I can stomach Austin Rivers. I know Austin Rivers, didn't he have like a big game? Yeah, over 35 2 games ago. I mean, he's been playing better, but I'll let others play Austin Rivers on a 9-game slate. All right, San Antonio and Houston. So can't wait to get popped tomorrow as well. Keldon Johnson's questionable. Josh Richardson is out. It's a great matchup here. I think, Vassell and Trey Jones would probably be my 2 favorite plays if Keldon Johnson's out. Those two would get a usage bump, probably get more shots up. So those two look better. Pirtle is on a limit. I want to keep an eye on the news. If he's still on the limit, can't go there. Collins and Bassey, 2 priced up from when Pirtle was out. And then if Keldon Johnson's out, I think you get more minutes for guys like Bates Diop, McDermott, Jeremy Sohan. Bates Diop been playing a lot recently, 31, 24, 32 minutes. So again, those wings would look better if Keldon Johnson is out. On the Houston side, KPJ, Jalen Green, I think are both solid plays in both formats. I mean, they're going to play a good amount. So they're both playable. Sengun more of a tournament only play. Jabari Smith does feel a little bit cheap. In competitive games, he has been playing with mid-30s minutes. Eric Gordon's just always there for me. He's always a fine filler value. Most of the time he's going to play, close to 30 minutes in a competitive game. And then Martin, Eason are always viable off the bench in GPPs. Lakers and Suns. So this is relatively easy to talk about, assuming the Lakers don't rest anyone else. So no Anthony Davis. We'll see about the status of Patrick Beverley, but I think this team looks good. LeBron James, going to run the show offensively here with no AD. I think he makes for a good spend up at the top. Westbrook should play, 25, 30, low 30s minutes off the bench. He'll probably be the second highest usage player. So the top 2 guys look good. And then a lot to like for value. Thomas Bryant, way too cheap at 4-2. He should start. You'll get Damian Jones backing him up. He's definitely playable. But Thomas Bryant, the better point per minute guy of the 2. And then like this group of value, Reeves, Lonnie Walker, Schroeder, I think they all look pretty good. They all got a minutes bump. They all have to, do a little bit more when they're on the court without Anthony Davis. So in my opinion, right now, the Lakers look like one of my favorite teams to target on the slate, which is scary. That's scary to say. On the Suns side, a little bit hard to talk about. Booker and Ayton both questionable. Now, if they're both in, I'm mainly looking to the top-end guys like Booker, like DeAndre Ayton. Value, I mean, Okogie has been playing relatively well off the bench. He would be probably playable. Now, if Booker and Ayton are both out, then there's a lot to like here for Phoenix. Then Chris Paul looks really, really good. But according to Twitter, with Devin Booker off the court, Chris Paul is actually worse. You guys didn't know. That's what some people think on Twitter. But yeah, if DeAndre Ayton is out, we already know Lando's out. So Biyombo would probably have to play a good amount in the center position. And I would guess the backup center would go to Dario Saric at the flat min, and he would definitely be in play. And then if there's no Devin Booker, I mean, you're going to get more run for guys like Shamet, Lee, and Okogie. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the Phoenix news. And finally, Charlotte and Sacramento. This game looks pretty appealing too. The late night hammer, 2 teams that play very little defense. LaMelo Ball, 8-4. I like the price point on him. In competitive games, he should see 35 plus minutes. So I do like him. Rozier got injured. We'll keep an eye on his status. If he's out, going to make LaMelo look a little bit better. And then just make these secondary guys look a bit better too with Oubre, Hayward. They are a little bit pricey, but yeah, it would make everyone look a little bit better if Rozier is out. Front court, not a ton that I love. I mean, maybe Maybe Maladon becomes like playable if Rozier doesn't play. But mainly LaMelo Ball is the guy I'm looking to. And finally, Sacramento. So Sacramento, basically fully healthy team. My boy Sabonis has been playing extremely well of late. He's playing a lot of minutes, and bigs have destroyed Charlotte. So, yeah, I like Sabonis a good amount here. Also, did you see what Jokic did to the Hornets? Go take a look at his stats. I'm looking at my phone. It's like early in the second quarter. It's like 16 rebounds. Like, what? I was like, no way. That has to be a mistake. Check another app. It was real. So, wild stat line there from Jokic. But, yeah, I think Sabonis looks pretty good there at the top. De'Aaron Fox, 8-3. His minutes have ticked up of late. If he's going to play close to 40 minutes, he feels a bit too cheap. If you want to get to guys like Herter, Barnes, Monk, Murray in tournaments, that's fine. But other than Fox and Sabonis, there's really no priorities. So, yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up the video. Again, all I ask is one slate. But if you do enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And I'll see you guys all in the next video.